Hey, welcome to a new episode of How I Met My Beer. We are standing in front of Windmill Craftworks, one of the first microbreweries in Bangalore. Started in 2012, Windmill has been serving for the last 8 years some of the best craft beer. Welcome to How I Met My Beer.
Today we have with us Rahul Baliga, who is the co-founder and director of FF21 as a guest with us. So Rahul, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about your company a little bit, FF21, right? What is it? I mean, can you just tell us for us and as for the audience?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. FF21 was a bit of a brainchild of ours about 3 years back to try and provide quality community living spaces for working professionals in Bangalore. So right now we have close to about 1,000 beds across the city of Bangalore. Been about 3 years in operation, and the idea was primarily to provide a clean, safe environment, free of any judgment. People who are working today, they have a lot of their own specific needs, their choices, so they can live the way they want. And the idea was to try and build a community around living. So that was the thought behind setting up FF21. So that's what FF21 is all about.
That's great. So, with respect to your job, right, in the
Yeah.
company or running the startup, what is that one aspect that makes you get up every day so excited and come?
So I think the most exciting part of the job is the fact that we are able to create a living experience for the working professionals, like I said, and working with a small young team, trying to do this in a manner that is a little different from what is readily available in the market. We don't have a lot of people who are behind us. We have to drive the organization ourselves. So there's a lot of hands-on approach to whatever we are doing, and we are running this like it's our own child in a way, trying to build it up. So in that sense, every day there are new challenges that come, some small, some big. The COVID situation has also not helped. So in the middle of all of this, trying to solve those challenges on a day-to-day basis is really what gets us going. And at the end of the day, is satisfaction in having solved some of those. Yeah.
Tell us your first experience with beer.
So it's an interesting story. I don't know, quite a few others might have gone through the same experience. So the first time that I actually had beer was with a set of school friends, and our standard 10 exam results had just come out. Bangalore was, this is early 90s. So there were a handful of places that were not the so-called very formal pubs that were around. So there was this place called 19 Church Street, on Church Street. So that was a place where they used to have a live band playing music. So it was the first time our results had come in the afternoon. So, half excited, half sort of feeling down. But the mood was there as a group. So we decided to go out. We were strolling around Brigade Road, and then we walked into this pub, and there was this live band playing. So, first time I had beer, we were six of us and we ordered one pitcher. Kingfisher draft, I think it was. And yeah, between the six of us, we got 3/4 of a mug each. And we were quite happy about it and walked out. And then, we spent some time listening to the music, but then we came out, had dinner, and then went back. Okay. So that was our first experience with beer.
The second guest today on our show is Ajay Nagarajan, co-founder and CEO of Total Environment Hospitality. Welcome to the show, Ajay. So the first question is very interesting. You were a techie, right?
Right,
And you moved to brewing,
right,
and you studied brewing.
right.
How did all this
So it's a very simple case of hobby gone serious. So around early 2000s, I used to homebrew at home in the US. I was in Texas, where you're generally exposed to a large variety of beers. And as a part of our work group, we used to go every Wednesday to a craft brewery or a place that had craft beer. And through the years, that repertoire of beers built up, and you started recognizing an IPA from a stout to a lager and pilsner. And then the natural progression is to try it at home, and home brewing is a very popular hobby there. So, and the first batch I made, I actually went to a 7-Eleven and I picked up a Mr. Beer kit. And it had the malt extract and the yeast. All you had to do is stir up the from a can and put it in a plastic keg, and 3 weeks later, beer. And that beer was better than anything that I could drink from a bottle. And that's when the light bulb went off, saying that why am I buying this rubbish beer from the market when I can make something so easily? And that's how the journey started. And home brewing is like being a car mechanic. You can do whatever you want, and there's no limit to how much you can spend and how much you can learn and how much you can research. So it got serious year by year. And then I started interning in local brew pubs in Dallas, where I was. And then I went to
So you left your job and...
No, weekends.
Okay.
Weekends and most weekday evenings. And it got to a point where that's all I was talking about was beer and what goes in the beer and what kind of beers am I going to make and getting people over to drink beer. And that's all I did for a living besides my day job. And then I went to Siebel Institute in Chicago and got my certification, online courses. And it got to a point where I couldn't go to work anymore. I said, this is what I want to do. And the timing was right. It was 2010, 2011, and India was just opening up. And I had a lot of people who would come from India to Dallas, guys from Infosys and other tech companies. And they said, hey, this is great. Why don't you come to India and do this? So I said, find me somebody, I'll come. And it was a joke. And they actually found me somebody. And then I had to come. So when I met Kamal Sagar from Total Environment, and he was as passionate about music as I was about beer. And he had this building. And that time there was no road here. And it was all dirt road, there was no buildings. And he said, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Worst case will be a value add for the residents and windmills of your mind. And that's how we call it windmills. So I had no idea this would happen. Right? I just wanted a chance to go pro. And if somebody had given me $1 million to go to Siberia and start a brewery, I would have done it. Right? I just wanted a chance to go pro. I just wanted to bring out my passion out and let people experience it. And it's as simple as that. And people often ask how hard was it to move back to India after 15 years and deal with all the corruption and the excise and everything here. How do you do it? For me, I think the only thing that mattered to me was to make craft beer. Everything else I can deal with. If I can get to do what I want, I will deal with all the problems that come in my way. And I knew nothing about the food and beverage industry. I knew nothing about anything. But we just learnt as time went by.
As a brewer, it's an art. At least that's what I think it's an art. And as a CEO, you are looking at the money element of the whole thing. So how does it mix? Because some of the best brew may not be the most selling.
So the brew pub model is very forgiving because you only pay 35 rupees per liter as excise taxes, and that's it. Whereas you go out, you're paying 175% as excise taxes, then you're incentivizing the dealer, distributor, and in the end what you make is probably 10 rupees a can. Right? It's a very, very difficult business when you go out and package your beer and sell it in bottles and cans. But in a brewery, it doesn't cost me much to make this beer. And all I have to focus is on the top line, saying how can I spread the awareness, can I sell the beer. If my sales are good, I can really experiment with the ingredients, and I can throw in whatever I want. The margins are good, and it's a no-brainer. The margins are high, so it really doesn't matter what kind of ingredients you use. You don't have to worry too much about the economics, at least for the beer. A lot of my focus is on the food and labor and everything else. From the beer, I really don't care. I let the brewers do whatever they want. We'll make whatever beer you want, put as much hops as you want, use whatever ingredients you want, make the best beer you can because we have the margin to sell it.
A lot of brewers now try to make local flavored beers. So I know Desmond, he made agave beer. I have not seen much in
No, so every summer we do a Alfonso mango beer, either Alfonso mango pale ale or a mango wheat. So we do that. We've tried with pineapple. So we try to get local fruits into our brewing styles. We use a lot of coconut. In fact, we have a coconut golden ale. You should try it. Okay. So coconut, mango, pineapple. We're going to try some of the German styles like the Goza and we're going to use tamarind, amla. We also last year we almost brewed a ragi beer. So these are the things that are happening in India. So ragi, fruits, coconut, these are all happening. So this is something that I think one style will come out from here, from India, that is signature craft beer from India. It'll either be an Alfonso Mango, because Alfonso Mangoes are not found anywhere in the world, and it has a very distinct aroma and flavor profile that you cannot
I
replicate.
think most breweries in India try Alfonso Mango at some point of time.
Right. So that's one beer that I think will go mainstream.
Okay.
And second is a really good coconut beer. It's a coconut brown and then all the Indian like tamarind, amla, which goes in the goza. Gozas are anyway sour. So that combination of these ingredients with the goza will work really well. And second is India is the largest whiskey market in the world. So these barrel aged stouts
Ah,
will do really well. So we have tried many here. We've done.
I remember. I
Yeah.
remember the barrels.
Yeah, we had kept it right here, and so the barrel aged stout is something that we do, and they are from Paul John or Amrut, and they work really well. So these are some of the flavors we are messing around with. Jackfruit, we've tried once; it didn't turn out too well, but it has potential, right? So mango, jackfruit, pineapple, tamarind, amla, barrel aged. So these beers do really well.
Now I know that apart from here and the airport one, you're going to start something in the US.
Yes,
Why
about
of
to.
all the places going
Right.
to the
Right.
most competitive craft beer market?
So actually, no. First of all, I grew up. I mean, I was there from 1998 to 2011, and the North Texas area was actually a dry area.
Oh, is it?
Right? It's in the Bible Belt.
Okay.
Right? You even if you want to drink beer, you had to get a special card, and there were no breweries, there were no liquor shops. In the county that I lived in, Dallas and Collin County, there was nothing. And there were some places zones where you could go and get liquor. So there were no breweries. So they opened up the same time India opened up, right? And the real estate arm decided they bought 55 acres of land and they were building single family homes there. In fact, it's about to launch that project. So when I went there with the real estate team and I said, hey, you guys are building homes there, you have the team there, I'm going to put in a brewery nearby because we have the infrastructure to develop, construct. So that was the thought process. And I said, if we find a really good location where there is a good combination of corporate clientele and the residents, we'll do it. And we found a spot that was just perfect. On the highway, very close to Toyotas and there's a $5 billion mile there with all the corporates. And we said, if we get this spot, we'll do it. And that the landlord is actually Warren Buffett's company, Nebraska Furniture Mart. And we made a pitch to them. They flew here. They saw what we are doing. They instantly liked it. And they said, come back and do it. We'll give you an acre of land. We'll give you money. And why not? And for me, it was almost like going back home because I knew the demographic. I knew the areas. I knew how to get things done there. I knew brewers. So for me, it was not much of an effort. So, and also I feel that you always need a foreign brewmaster to make great beer. India still does not have the talent. There are very few brewers, maybe 2 or 3 brewers here who actually studied abroad and come back and they've experienced. But honestly, you should have drunk craft beer for 10 years before you can say, I know craft beer, right? You can't go to school for 2 years and say, I know craft beer. So that process is slow and it needs to get into your DNA. So I've always had a foreign brewmaster here for the last 10 years. And keeping a foreign brewmaster in India is actually a problem. Right, they're very hard to because their families and an expat salary, it hurts you. So my goal was to create something there and here, so these brewers can keep traveling and going back, and the chefs from here can go there, the brewers can there from come here, kind of cross-pollinate ideas and cultures and create something truly unique. And that's the thought process. So my chefs are already there, and the brewers are here.
So it will be the same menu.
Yeah. So there is 50% Indian and 50% Texan. Right. So, but all the Indian R&D was done here. So it helps us create a global brand. It's easier to, and every time you do something outside your comfort zone, you learn something, right? For me, this was very important to make sure my chefs go there, and the way they run the business there is very different from the way they run it here. Same thing for the beer. So beer is evolving every year, and if you're not on that cutting edge, you fall behind. If you think you know something and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, It's old. For example, the IPAs that you get in India now are actually old school. They're done. Right now is that single malt, all Pilsner, West Coast style IPAs that are light and not cloyingly sweet. That's a new style there. The hazy IPAs are a new style there. So it always helps to have one foot there, so you get all the technology transfer and keep it going. So that was the idea behind it.
Which is your most favorite?
Yeah. So most brewers will say that are the IPAs because the range of hops that are available, right, and the how much you can experiment with them till you die, right? And every year you get these experimental hops with flavor. Yeah. So now some of these hops are not even in the market, and before it was just Citra, Simcoe, Cascade, which essentially was citrus or passion fruit. Now you get coconut, citrus, Australian, New Zealand. You get berries, all those flavors from the hops, and that is just fascinating for me. And you marry that with the hops, and you get something that you can drink and savor, and you feel like paying a top dollar for those kind of beers. So yeah, IPA is my favorite style.
Why a German IPA? Because Germany is like a version or
Or a lager, yeah.
or a lager.
Yeah.
Correct. And IPA or double IPA is typically the American version or even the English.
Right. So every year during the Oktoberfest, we make German beers. We make the Oktoberfest, we make a Helles Lager, we make a Pilsner. And when we came up with the lineup this year, we realized that we did not have an IPA on tap. Okay, we had all German beers on tap. We said we need to have one beer that's hoppy because there's a good section of our crowd, our clientele that comes in and wants something hoppy. So why not make a hoppy IPA with this German style? So we essentially married a German base malt with German hops, but they are not traditional German hops like Saaz or bittering hops, but we use the aromatic new generation German hops like Hull Melon and Mandarina Bavaria. And we hopped it like an American IPA and even dry hopped it with these hops, and that's what came out as a German IPA.
Okay. And how is the response?
So it's good. I mean, people, and it's not as the IBUs are not that high, so it's still approachable and
It's around 38.
yeah, and but you still get the fruitiness of the Mandarina Bavaria and the Hull Melon hops. So it's a very different flavor profile, melon and tangerine as compared to dank, pine, woody, citrus. So it's a very different flavor profile. Yeah.